This week, all the F1 liveries were revealed at the F1 75 event.
The speculation and hype also begins for the two F1 games, the Codemasters F1 25 game and Frontier's F1 Manager 25. But both games have a certain uncertain future due to declining interest and sales. While EA hasn't extended its license beyond 2025, F1 Manager 25 is reportedly cancelled completely. This week I want to dive into why I believe the F1 Manager franchise failed and what a motorsport management game would need to do different.
The F1 Manager franchise got announced back in 2020 with Frontier being the devs. Frontier, as you might know, were the guys that are behind Planet Coasts and Planet Zoo, for example, so rightfully people were intrigued. I love Football Manager, and seeing that type of game being made for F1 was pretty exciting. There was Motorsport Manager, but that never had anything like real tracks, cars, drivers, or official championships. You could mod the last two things, but having no cars and tracks was kind of pointless to me as it ruins the immersion. F1 Manager launched in 2020 with the new Aorus, and it launched with quite a bit of hype, with 25,000 players at launch, but that initial honeymoon phase was really short when people realized there isn't much to do. You couldn't switch teams, you couldn't create one, which with the new Rex at the time would have been a pretty good idea. But I was like, alright, this is the first game in this series.
Football Manager decades to get where it is nowadays, and the foundations felt good enough, and in a 2 or 3 years time, maybe by the time the new engine Rex rolled around, this could be a fun enough game.
But then Frontier did its first hoopla. The game basically got abandoned just 2 months after release, which left a lot of people pissed. F1 Manager 23 was basically dead on arrival compared to 22. And I didn't play it, but it was apparently not really that different compared to 22. But F1 Manager 24 was a bit better.
The biggest feature was probably create a team. It apparently launched pretty broken, but I still wasn't there for it. I started playing it in December and accumulated over 200 hours on the Steam Deck, most of it, funnily enough. And I feel like I kinda understand why this franchise wasn't successful. First of all though, we need to understand the genre that this game is in, which is the sports management genre. The most popular example of another sports management game is probably Football Manager, but it's by far not the only one in its field.
Now, the premise of a sports management game on the surface is simple. You take a team at a certain level and you build and develop them to become successful. That's either through short-term success, so winning matches and good training, or through long-term success, so scouting, good transfers, and leveling up your youth department.
On the surface, a game like Football Manager can seem like you are playing a spreadsheet simulator, but there are certain things a sports management game can do to assure that it stays engaging. The first most important thing sports management games need to have is having proper depth and realism. But what do I mean by that? Let's take a player in both EAFC and Football Manager. I took Dr. Gyro's forgotten Android Erling Haaland for this example.
And if we count those, it has a total of 34 visible attributes. Now these attributes are on a range of 0 to 100. Now let's compare this to Football Manager. And here we have 36 visible attributes ranging from 1 to 20. But there's a sizable difference between Football Manager and EAFC. If we click on this little report icon here, we can see these pros and cons. Some of them are related to recent form, like has performed especially well in training, but there are also these ones, like enjoys big matches or driven in pursuit of his goals. These aren't just things manually assigned by a dev, no, but not by the attributes that you can see here. If you look at my little pen up on the top right corner, we can look at the editor and have a look at hidden attributes. Here you have stuff like professionalism, sportsmanship, consistency, temperament, dirtiness, important matches. These basically give the player a personality. For example, if I take the important matches attributes from its standard 14 to 1, you can see that the enjoys big matches switch to dreads playing in big matches. And if we pump that up to 20, you can see that it says thrives on playing in big matches. And this gives a player, especially if they are a region, a personality and have them be more than just a little copy of the retired player called Joe Cheeseburger.
And it's logical, because managing a team in real life is more than just making match-winning tactics and buying and selling players. It's about managing people and having a team that is harmonious and works together on the field. This depth also leads me into the next part, which is what I call organic storytelling.
Now, unlike other video games, there is no narrative written by the devs, there's no cutscenes or pre-written stories. It's you finding a player that seems promising but doesn't meet the expectations due to being an arrogant prick. You have clubs rising out of nowhere, winning upside trophies, big clubs through a series of mistakes and multiple bad seasons, following from being a Champions League regular to fighting against relegation.
FYI, yes, I know that FM25 also got cancelled and the series isn't doing well either, just so you know. I guess 2025 is just a curse year for football managing games. But yeah, the reason I'm saying this is because I want to... I'm very aware what is happening with Football Manager right now. But I think my points still stand.
Nations that normally are just cannon fodder in qualifying, reaching the World Cup. There are stories that are just happening by your hand, but also that happen around you. Things just happen naturally, you know?
Sometimes things happen in game that you think are ridiculous, but then they happen in real life and you think, yeah, stupid shit happens in real life too. Like, who would have thought ever that Lionel Messi would go away from Barcelona, right? Or Lewis Hamilton would go to Ferrari, or, I don't know, you get what I mean? Now that we found out what makes the sports management game good, let's talk about what F1 Manager did wrong. Now I have 200 hours in F1 Manager 24. I made a save where I started as Manthey Racing. I then turned it into a full works team called Porsche Manthey in 2026. It's a bit of a nod to how Porsche and Team Penske are collaborating in the endurance racing. And I created an engine in the database editor.
I'm now in 2030, I've won the last 3 drivers and constructors titles and I am on track to win my 4th one. So it's a bit boring there, but let's look at my stuff. Oh wow, I have 2 sitting at 100 and 1 at 98, so I guess I can just leave them there. Now my race engineers, they are at 97 and 93, so still room to grow, but they are in a similar trajectory.
Are you seeing the same problem here? The staff members I have are all from when I created my team. And they are not the best staff in the sport. And there's not really a reason to change them at all. It's a bit better with the race engineers, and that's because I forced myself to change them. And I could have probably kept the ones I signed in Season 1, and they would be at 100 as well.
Now, drivers are a bit of a complicated topic, since they have a few more factors play into their development, like race performance, facilities, race engineer affinity. This is basically a bit of a glimpse of sports management magic and how it could be. Because it is kind of boring that in every save Mick Schumacher always sucks, because it makes the second save a lot less attractive. I would love to make Mick a multi-time champion, but it feels like that it's pretty much hard-coded for him to suck.
Now in Football Manager, for real players, they basically have a range of potential ability, and at the beginning of each save, a random value in that range is assigned. And that makes it that not every save the same players become Ballon d'Or candidates. For me, F1 Manager over the save felt more like a EAFC save than a Football Manager save. I basically had 3 seasons where I built the team starting in 2027 and I started winning everything. It's okay, but also a bit boring, so I'm probably not going to play it again. But I don't think a motorsport management game is destined to fail, so what would be the approach needed for a motorsport management game?
I think one problem is the game being tied to one license. While this can work with racing sims, in a management game where you have to bank on an alive world, it's pretty hard to sell. The advantage Football Manager has is that football as a sport is played all around the world, so there is a league almost everywhere, and you have a lot of different potential countries where new wonder kids could come from. F1 Manager really doesn't have that benefit. Motorsport and F1 as well are a pretty niche sport, and while it is the biggest category, it is still pretty small.
To give an example, the F1 2023 season had 1.5 billion people watching. This is as much as the World Cup final had in 2022. That's 1 match versus 23 races. And probably a fraction of F1 fans like video games, let alone sports management games. And an F1 Manager game would always be limited to 10 teams, 20 drivers and 24 tracks. And I think this would be true for a game would be solely focused on only WEC, NASCAR. Let's for a bit, before we finish this video, design what my ideal motorsport management game would be.
So let's pick an engine first. I personally don't mind Unreal, but I think for modability and customizability, I would either go to an in-house engine or Unity. Then let's focus on the licenses. I would probably try to focus on tracks first. You wouldn't need to laser scan them as you wouldn't drive on them, but real tracks make it feel more realistic and immersive. As you might know, there was Motorsport Manager, but that didn't have real tracks, which is alright, but a bit immersion breaking for me. I think having real tracks is just more fun, you know, like winning an endurance race at the Nordschleife is just more impactful and enjoyable than winning one at a badly designed ripoff. Because you do have more appreciation for the effort, like winning an endurance race at the Nordschleife is just more impactful and enjoyable than winning one at a badly designed ripoff.
Also, licensed tracks make it just easier creating setups, as you might already know them. For the other stuff, I would probably do generic names and team logos, but have it be moddable like Football Manager, of course. And of course, over time, you could get official series like IMSA, WEC, IndyCar, Super Formula, and you wouldn't be able to license every series because there's just too many in the world, and it would probably be wise to focus on the big ones first. Now, I don't think that F1 would want to be a part of it, but you could just give it a generic name and people will just mod it anyway. But what you could also do is just get licenses of cars. You could get licenses from the Lara for youth Formula cars, licenses for individual GT3 cars, maybe even karts, and then just create generic youth Formula series. All of this could basically be modifiable via logo packs, livery packs, and even expandable via database mods, like in Football Manager. I think that this way a motorsport management game would be way more interesting, as the world of this game would feel more alive. You could do journeyman saves, start in a small Generator Cup series or small touring car series somewhere around the world, or even karting. I think this type of game feels like a pipe dream, but could be more engaging and fun and be way more interesting to replay over and over again. So basically what I'm saying is that I want FM, but with motorsport slapped on top instead of football. I hope you had fun. Next week will be a video about the Coach F1 series. Leave a like or dislike and don't forget to subscribe. I see you in the next one and bye bye.